So, welcome to Temper Tantrums and Transformations. It's me, Shonda Carter, and today we're going to be talking about the elder brother temper tantrum of all temper tantrums. Isn't it just like God, who always gives you the best example ever? Like, no matter what is wrong with you, you can point to someone in that Bible that shares your pain, your saga, your experience. We're all trained to look to Jesus because he's the author and finisher of our faith, and he suffered for our infirmities. But when it comes to the subject of tantrums, I'm not going to be looking for Jesus. Like, I'm full on in the tantrum. So um, I really related to the elder brother, and I'm talking about the story of the prodigal son. Very famous story. Whenever we hear the story, it's more than likely all about the prodigal son and him returning, and it's kind of done at the end, and everyone cheers and goes, "Isn't how the prodigal son so fantastic? He's so great. He's magnificent. We need to learn from him." And I just get kind of bleh. Sorry, I do. I still have some flaws. So I just got a little bleh with the story. And, I always related more to the older brother. Could it be that just because I'm an older child myself? I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was. I'm an older child. I had two brothers. I had a brother, and I still have a brother and a sister younger than me. And my little brother is 4 years younger than me, and he was a brat. And he got away with so much stuff that it just wasn't even funny. And I remember being jealous of him, thinking, oh, the freedom. Wow. What would it be like to be like that? Knowing that I didn't want to be like that, but I just wanted to know, like, what is it like to experience that type of freedom? Which is probably why I related so much to the elder brother in the story, even though sometimes, depending on who's teaching, he can be made out to be selfish and a villain and blah, 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 blah. But I don't want to get too much into all of the things that could be wrong with that story. I want to get to my notes because I did actually write some extensive notes on the subject. And like we said, one of the things that I love about this story is I've read a couple of books on it. And one author, Henry Nouwen, he says that the parable should be called the parable of the lost sons, not just the parable of the prodigal son. And I really like that because he explains an entirely different perspective when you look at the older brother and the father as well, because a lot of times we just seem to focus on the prodigal son. So we can miss a lot out of that story if you're just focused on using that as a story for the lost to return. So I really love this book. One of the things, the basis of it is the young brother left. Um, Externally, the young brother left. Externally, the older brother did what he was supposed to do. Like, I'm going to be the good one. Blah 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 blah. But internally, the older brother wandered away. Now I know my mind was blown too when I read about this. But it says he did his duty. He worked hard. He fulfilled his obligations, but in doing so, he became increasingly unfree and unhappy. From the perspective of the older brother, you can do what you're supposed to be doing externally, but inside you're gone. And I know a lot of times this can happen in marriages, sometimes in parenthood as well. My fourth child just left. I'm an empty nester officially. And, there were some times where it was just like, I'm not enjoying this being a mother. I said it. Yes. There were some times I did not enjoy it. I just wanted it to be over with. I was able to correct when I started thinking like that, because how miserable are you going to be if you are a mom and you're miserable and you don't want to deal with that? So without going too much into that, but the elder brother in the story was lost in resentment. He was kind of lost in his emotions. When you read the entire story, it becomes and you look at it from that perspective, yeah, he, just like me, it says, did he have a curiosity about being bad? Uh, Deep down, he was very envious. Um, and it says so in Luke 15:29 in the New Living Translation. It's that this helps prove my point. It says, but he replied, all these years I've slaved for you, and you never once refused to do a single thing. And I never once did a single thing you told me to do. And in all that time, you never even gave me one young goat for a feast with my friends. That's resentment. It's like, why do I have to ask? Like, can't you see all the work that I was doing, how good I have been, how I've never given you any problems? You should have rewarded me on your own. So not only did he not get a reward that he thought he should have, but the reward that went to the reward that he thought of as a reward went to his younger brother. So we're seeing a lot more come into that. We see some self-righteousness, and I'm able to say that because I have a very, I'm gonna say have. I'm gonna intermingle those because, like I said, I haven't arrived yet. So a self-righteousness where we can overestimate our services sometimes. It's like, I know no one wants to hear this, but, sometimes we can get really pumped up in, like, for example, with me being a mom, it can be like, don't these kids see all the stuff I'm doing for them? I'm like, you know what? Newsflash. If you brought the kids into the world, you're supposed to be doing that for them. And sometimes you don't get a thank you. And there's been generations of moms way before you that have doing this type of stuff, and no one threw them a parade. And guess what, Shonda? You're not going to get a parade either. But I'm just saying that because I kind of identify with the older brother. It's, a good, the Bible says honor your parents. So you're supposed to be honoring your parents. Now, I'm not going to beat up on the older brother. This is to give you a different perspective and to let you know what's in there and what's going on. But I'm telling you, I fully understand what he's going through. When you let your obedience and service become a burden, it can become a burden when you let your obedience and service become a burden. I don't know how to say that. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. But he let his obedience and service become a burden by the way he was thinking of it. Like, I should be rewarded for this, instead of just, this is what I'm doing. And I'm enjoying being obedient. I'm enjoying the perks of the service. I'm enjoying this house and knowing that I'm going to inherit this land and all this other stuff. But the older brother, where he messed up was he let it become a burden to him and a way of proving that, that he deserved to be rewarded. I have this down as an example. Like, one of the ways, one of the things the ways that I've let my service become a burden to me is, I'm just going to be totally honest with you. Like, say, for example, a rapper. We'll say, for example, a rapper comes out with a gospel album. Now, everyone under the sun is, did you hear that this rapper has a gospel album? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Oh, God is doing such a mighty work in his life. And they share it all over social media. And I'm looking at these same people like, you've never shared any of my videos. You just give me one click and go on. You don't comment. I've been doing this for 20 years now. Like, this isn't fair. Like, it's not even just the people that don't share my videos. I look at God some kind of way and go, how come, this person, they've been living this sinful life this entire time, and now they want to come do a gospel album, and now they're just the next savior. That's me. That's what I'm saying. Why I feel like I'm there with the older brother, because I have those feelings that I have to fight on a daily basis. Several elder sons and daughters who can be still lost while they're home. When I'm having thoughts like that, like, God, it's not fair that they are getting, you know, people are buying the album, people are talking about them, people are happy. And I mean, how does that even look? You know, we're supposed to want people to come to Jesus. And so I have to wrestle with, well, I want you to come to Jesus, but I don't want you to do better than me. Like I said, just being honest, this is temper tantrums and transformation. We'll get to the transformation, but we need to discuss these temper tantrums because sometimes we just overlook those and then just pretend like we don't have them, and that's not true. Um, these tantrums can be this type of feelings can be characterized by judgment, yes, resentment, yes, I have that, anger, condemnation, because it's like sometimes I'm like, am I doing something wrong, God? Because I don't understand why you would reward this rapper out there who's had this horrible lifestyle. I don't understand why they're getting such accolades. And then even not even just the celebration of them, but they're bringing more people to Christ than I am. Like, that's not fair. Like, what kind, like, seriously, do you see the tantrumness in this? I marvel at it when I talk about it. Bitterness and jealousy. All of those things I described when I described the rapper who does a gospel album. Lostness, another point that we need to make, lostness is not always visible. We always think, that it's visible. You can see that the younger is lost. He goes away, he goes to a foreign land, he has his come to, his revelation moment. You can see all of that in the story. He disrespected and squandered money. You can see all the horrible things that he did, all visible. What's not visible is the elder son's lostness, because outward, he was a model son, but inward, when he was confronted by joy for the younger son's return, his problems began to boil to the surface. His pride boiled to the surface. His unkindness and selfishness boiled to the surface. And that's the type of stuff that boils to the surface. Like when I was describing my temper tantrum with people in the arena, because when they're doing okay, when they're rappers in the world, it's like, oh, well, the world rewards this, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, now you're coming to my home. You're returning home. It's my home. You see it. You see how I'm even talking. You're returning home and everyone's celebrating. And it's like, what about me? What about me? What about me? So that's a lostness that we have to deal with, as in our temper tantrum. We can get stuck in a frozen type of anger. And a frozen anger is when your only goal is to avoid sin. So when my only goal is to avoid sin, I can't focus on the kingdom, because I'm only focusing on avoiding sin and doing what's right in my life and doing what appears to be right, just like the older brother. And like I said, all of this yuck is on the inside, but it's not outward. So I'm not dealing with it. So we need to deal with what's on the inside as well, because the same eyes that see the prodigal are the same eyes that see the elder brother. And that's really it's a really good thing, because we can see the prodigal's loss. God can, on the outside, God can see us lost on the inside. So we don't need to be in condemnation or ashamed when God confronts us and says that we're lost. We gotta, humble ourselves and let go of that pride so that God can help us deal with that. Don't say, no, I'm not lost. How dare you? I've been serving for 20 years. Well, the older brother had been serving his entire life. And you see what happens when he was confronted with joy. The older brother, like I've experienced, I've told you my tantrum with with the rapper, and I always read the prodigal son and think of the older brother saying, "I tried so hard. I worked so long. I did so much, and still you have not received, and still I have not received what others get so easily. Why do people not thank me, not invite me, not play with me, not honor me, while they pay so much attention to those who take their lives so easily and casually?" That's a legit argument. It's a legit make you feel some kind of way. Let's just get real about it. We take off the biblical eyes of, oh, you're not supposed to feel like that. Well, you can tell someone you're not supposed to feel like that all day long, and they're still feeling like that. So that's why I want to get down to the nitty gritty, get to the bottom of what's going on as far as these temper tantrums. They're getting the stuff out. The tragedy of the tantrum, even though it gets stuff out, is if you if you get it out and then don't take the next steps for healing, the tragedy of the tantrum is that the complaining leads to even more rejection. One of the things that's really interesting about the story is Luke 15:26 says the older brother called out to one of the servants when he heard the music. So it's like you started a party and didn't even come get me. Like I had to ask what's going on. I mean, can you see just like can we just step into the older brother's shoes here and see what's going on? Put yourself in the older brother's shoes, even if you're not, if you're a prodigal, if you're not, um, if you've never looked at the older brother except as any other way besides what a brat, um, what a self-righteous jerk. Let's just look at how would you feel if you know you came home and there was a party going on and no one even came out to get you before it started and said, "Hey, we're going to have a party." Would you feel fear like I've been excluded again? Would you feel anger like how dare they just not inform me? I think the elder brother felt both, a little of both. Like, why am I being excluded from this celebration? Even though he wasn't excluded, it was just a joyous, spontaneous type of thing, celebration, like a hug, let's go, let's go, let's go. But if you've been living on a strictly servitude relationship, sometimes, you can see things that are not there because you're not able to see it from a love type of walk. But he was so angry that he refused to even go into the party. And that just brings us to another point that joy and resentment cannot coexist. Instead of dancing, instead of music and dancing inviting the joy in, it caused the older brother to have further withdrawal. So that's a good point to listen to when you're dealing with other people. Sometimes what makes you happy can be a source of resentment or pain for another person. I know, for example, uh, there's lots of people that do not like to identify with God as father because they've had a rough relationship with their father. And then some people just insist on, oh, he's a loving dad. But it's like if you don't have a concept of that, it's very hard to explain that to a type of person. So, let's just be in love and listen to the Holy Spirit when it comes to having to deal with other people instead of doing well, let me explain it to you like this, because sometimes you can explain to your blue in the face and it doesn't do any good. So the music and dancing was inviting joy for other people, if people got happy. But for the other older brother, it caused further withdrawal because he sat outside in the dark. Now, I want you to look at this story. He sat outside in the dark. Can you imagine you're sitting outside in the dark and you're looking at the light? That's what a lot of people do. They sit outside in the dark, all the while looking at the light, but refusing to go into the light or refusing. So, you know what you know where you can kind of go with that. Another thing that's really hard about this story is there's no conclusion for what happened to the older brother. So we're kind of left with what our imaginations can do. And I like to think that it's kind of an invitation. I know in the practice of spiritual direction, a lot of times I will ask, what is God inviting you to? Is there an invitation there? The father invited the older brother into the party, invited the older brother to share in the joy. The older brother refused. So I think that the story is left on purpose where you don't know what happened with the older brother. So it's like you can become the older brother at that time and make the decision. Are you going to go into the party or continue sitting outside in resentment and anger? We need to make up our own conclusion. When I said, can you imagine sitting outside in the dark looking at the light? I can't imagine him sitting outside looking at the light. I can hear the thoughts he's having. No one cares about me. See, I'm out here all by myself. They're celebrating. The squeaky wheel gets the oil all the time. This is the story of my life. One of the best stories I ever heard. It made me laugh so hard. I was listening to a Bible teacher. I to this day I don't remember which one. He was on TV, and I knew that I instantly liked him. It was my first time ever hearing him preach on television, but I knew I instantly liked him because he said he was talking about the story when Jesus fed the 5,000. And he said that the disciples came to Jesus. He said he can imagine the disciples having a meeting going, gosh, I'm so hungry. And people are, where are we going to get some food? And somebody says, well, why don't we ask Jesus? And then another disciple says, no, don't tell him that we're hungry. He doesn't care about us. Tell him that the people are hungry. He'll do something. And I laughed so hard. I laughed because I've had those type of thoughts like, well, I know you're not going to do it for me, but you'll do it for everyone else. God, you never give me what I want. You never give me what I need. You never give me what I ask for. So I don't even ask because I know you're not going to give it to me, but I'm going to pretend that it's for the people and try to get away with it that way. Yeah, I've done that. Yeah. Sometimes you think, well, maybe this is my reward, so I just need to be grateful. Sometimes we can fall victim to those type of thoughts. Like the father said in the story, he says, all that I have is yours. So sometimes we can't see that because we've been trained or falsely believe that, well, I'm not supposed to ask for anything. I just need to be grateful for what I have. And there's nothing wrong with being grateful for what you have. It's only when it becomes when it puts shackles on you where you won't ask for anything because, oh, I've got to be grateful. Oh, I've got to be grateful. Yes, be grateful all day long, but don't let the grateful become your prison. I can't ask God for anything. I can't talk about that. I can't make my needs known. Because that builds resentment, that builds bitterness, the jealousy, all those things that we've discussed previously. Your gratitude will become your prison because it's false gratitude. You're just denying yourself, and you're denying it under the guise of I've got to be grateful. What the things that we learn in this story? I know I've been going along this whole time teaching a little bit about what we learned, but we learn in the story that God does not love the younger one more. God does not love the prodigal son more. It has to be said because when it's not said, a lot of times us older brothers can think that like, oh, you love him more than me. You let him get away with more than I do. I have to, do all this stuff and you just treat me like a dog and blah, 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 blah. I've been there, done that. I've done it. And how we know that the father does not love the younger more, and it's weird to say it out loud. The father goes out to greet the prodigal son. We've heard that story several times. He ran down the road, hugged his neck, gave him the ring, gave him the robe. We've heard that story. We cheer about that story. What we don't pay attention to is that the father also went out to get the older son. He went out to invite him into the party. We need to pay attention to that. He went out to get the younger son, and he went out to get the older son as well. What we don't need to overlook is he did say, my son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. Now, when you have a resentment mentality, you have a how dare you give them a party mentality, how dare you celebrate mentality like the older brother had, you overlook that this, my son, you are always with me, and all that I have is yours. Because you want it your way. You wanted, like you said, you never killed you never killed a goat for me. Not even a goat for me. It's like you could have, the older brother had access to all of this stuff, but it's like, no, I wanted you to want to give that to me and throw me a party. I know I've heard a pastor say, sometimes we got to throw our own party, and I was upset with that. Like, why can't I just be appreciated? Why do I have to, why can't you just love me and appreciate me like you do the squeaky wheel? Why does the brats always get all of the love and affection? And that's because we've got some lostness going on in here that we need to work on. The father does not compare the brothers, and neither should we. That's the thing, because the older brother made a point to compare. I've been here. Your son went away and squandered all of your money. So he's comparing why the younger should not get a party. I should be getting a party, or not even, that he should be getting a party, that the younger does not deserve a party. So that trap of comparison will get you every time. So we really don't need to be looking at, like, I did not need to be looking at the rapper that did a gospel album. I did not need to be looking at, well, how could, everyone be so sad? I needed to be looking at, if you keep your eyes on Jesus, that he's bringing people to the kingdom, or he's giving people that I can't reach and experience and a pathway to the kingdom. And that's supposed to make you happy. When you're healed, that makes you happy. So we need to really take a look at some of our behavior. Like, I know we have a lot of fun with these tantrums and these, but we don't want to focus on, oh, that's funny. Like, a 2-year-old that flips out on the floor, and we look at them and go, yeah, that's funny. You need to learn. The 2-year-old eventually learns that there are some adults that still act too. But you see what happens? The 2-year-old will eventually learn, I'm not going to get my way by having a tantrum. The ones that don't, and they're 30 and having tantrums, it's not cute. It's not funny. People look at you as, it's very tragic to be having that type of behavior. So we need to really take a look and a check inside of that. The father does not compare the brothers because he understands their uniqueness and their shortcomings, and he responds to both of the brothers accordingly. The return of the younger son calls for a celebration. The return of the elder son calls for an invitation to joy. They both had different needs. They both had their shortcomings, and the father responded to them according to what their needs were, not to what they wanted, because the younger brother said, I just want to be a servant in your house. I don't want nothing. I don't need nothing. The father responded with celebration. You have returned. Let's celebrate. The older brother wanted, I want to be appreciated. I wanted you to want to kill the fatted calf for me and the younger goat for me and my friends. The older brother needed joy in his life. He was filled with bitterness and resentment and jealousy, the things that we discussed earlier. There are different ways to deal with different people in different situations. And one of the scriptures that they use in that, Jesus says in John 14:2, in my Father's house, there are many dwelling places. That means that Jesus understands that we can dwell in different places. I'm just going to drop that right there. That's kind of a drop the mic moment. The Holy Spirit can go ahead and explain that one to you. But we can dwell in joy. We can dwell in the celebration. We can dwell in our invitation. Jesus offers so many things to us. It's up to us to decide where we want to dwell, because the enemy offers things to us too. So you have a choice. It says there's two choices: death or life. Choose life. Where do you want to dwell? Do you want to dwell in bitterness and resentment and no one cares about me for the rest of your life? Do you want a pity party, or do you want to be invited into this invitation to joy? When you stay outside in the dark, the younger brother seems more loved. You're going to be stuck there for the rest of your life. The older brother was so stuck there, he didn't even see him as our brother. And that's one of the things that, the Lord showed me when I was complaining about the rapper, having the tantrum about the rapper, was that he's your brother now. He's returned. He's returned. Let's celebrate that. Let me see my notes here. It says, yes, the scripture says, but the older brother says, but when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill the fatted calf for him. He distanced himself by saying, this son of yours. And if we're not careful, we can follow in the older brother's footsteps. I did it, getting jealous over other people returning and, doing something for God and getting better results. And I didn't know that they got better results. It's like what I wanted. They got what I wanted, which was fame, the accolades at the time. They got that. And it was like, I'm sitting here with my 4 views on YouTube, and I'm with another group that we've been working hard, and I've been doing, helping people in human trafficking. Like, don't I deserve a reward for that? My life got turned upside down. I went and got a master's degree in spiritual formation. I quit my career. I've gone into ministry. I'm becoming a spiritual director. I can list off all of my accomplishments, and then it's like, this guy comes along, and now the whole world is celebrating his miraculousness, where it's like, you never given me anything. We get the point. I don't want to belabor the tantrum, because I've had other tantrums too. It's not just the rapper, but I'm using that as an example, that is because it's just so dead on with what the older brother was going through here. So what can we do? We're going to wrap this up. What can we do? First of all, if you're an older brother, older sister, you need to recognize that we are lost. However you want to do it. We're lost. And you need to recognize that the Father went out to both of them. The difference is the younger one knew he was lost, and therefore he appreciated it when his father came out, whereas the older brother didn't think he was lost, and he did not appreciate when his father came out trying to convince him to go into that party. He had a bigger tantrum. We need to understand and put into practice trust and discipline. Trust believes God and allows you to be found when he tells you that you are lost. We need to not argue and say, no, I'm not. I'm right here. I've been here. And I think about this because there was I was reading, and it says the eyes of the Lord go to and fro to find blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I'm right here. And there's a video that I have. It's a parody of Hello, the Lionel Richie. And I'm just like, I'm right here. I'm right here. Why aren't you using me? Why won't you give me a big Joyce Meyer audience? And I have an entire video saying this. I'm literally having a tantrum going, I'm right here. I'm not lost. I'm right here. Why are you still looking? I said yes. Another tantrum. We also need to trust that you are worth finding. We are worth finding just as much as the prodigals. A lot of times it's like those are like, because it seems like those prodigal son testimonies get everybody off their feet and everybody jumps up and down, and I'm shrinking back going, well, I'm not telling my testimony because it's not as dramatic as that one. Nobody wants to hear my testimony. I didn't get in trouble, because I was at home and I was being good and I didn't hit rock bottom, so what can anyone learn out of me? There's lots of stuff that people can learn. For example, sharing these type of tantrums and these type of thoughts that we have, sharing that you were lost on the inside, it's going to help someone. This older brother story, older brother, the prodigal son, focusing on the older brother, it really helped me. It really did. And not in a shame-based way, like don't act like that. When you get into the story and you see what's going on, it really helps you to be able to say, God, I'm lost on the inside. I need help with that. So someone else can see that as well. So never underestimate what you have to give. Never underestimate that you are worth finding as much as a prodigal is. He doesn't love the prodigal son more. You will never be found if you keep putting yourself down and discounting yourself. So that means don't listen to that voice that says God is not even interested in you. He doesn't pay attention to the ones that don't leave. Oh, that was a good one. It's like, well, there's no reason to pay any attention to you. You're sitting right here. God takes you for granted. He will never give you what you truly want. Those are those voices that come to you when you're in bitterness, when you're in resentment, when you're at your own pity party, sitting outside in the dark, when you've been invited to an invitation of joy. You have to trust the voice that says, God is looking for you. He will go anywhere to find you. He loves you and he wants you home. You have to look at the voice that says, God has come outside, left the party to come and personally invite you in. We just can't discount that as, well, he does that for everyone. He's doing that for you. That's all you need to worry about right now. Don't worry about everyone else. Don't compare yourself to everyone else. Be there in the moment. God is inviting you to help you deal with getting found. Now, for the gratitude, the discipline of gratitude is the explicit. Hold on, let me read my notes here. The discipline of gratitude is to acknowledge that all I am and all I have is given to me as a gift of love, a gift to be celebrated with joy. You can choose to be grateful despite your emotions. Sometimes it feels fake, like you're being fake to do that, but deep down, you like I think of it's the thought that counts, because somebody didn't have to go out of their way to get me anything. Even if I didn't like it, it's like, the fact that they got up and they went and fought at Walmart to get me something and make me happy and or try to make me happy with this gift. I'm grateful for that. You can always find something to be grateful for. Always. If you look, you can, just like you can always find something to be mad about. You can always find something to be grateful about. And finally, you can be grateful because God says, you are always with me. All that I have is yours. So let's just celebrate. Sometimes it's just that easy. Let's just celebrate. Let's just take a minute and just celebrate. Even if it's for 30 seconds, just celebrate that you woke up. And I know this sometimes sounds cliche. I've heard the older ladies like, I'm just glad that he woke me up one more day. And it's like, I don't know if it took me to get the age that I am to really understand what they were saying, but it's like, it really is a gift. Every day is a gift. Every single day is a gift. So if you can't be grateful for anything else except for that, and if you are having a problem being grateful, because I did not do this podcast to be a preacher. I did this podcast, like I said, to listen. If you seriously cannot find anything to be grateful about, no condemnation, I want to invite you into a conversation. And that conversation includes, uh, in a maybe a spiritual direction type of environment. I'm doing free spiritual direction right now as because I am still in school. And I would really, really, really love to hear your thoughts on that. And I would really like to help you if you are having a problem with being grateful for something. I mean, who wants to walk up to someone and says, I have nothing to be grateful about? Now, there are some people that will do that, but those are those miserable people that don't want to get well. They just want to bring everyone else down. I'm talking about if you are genuinely seeking a relationship with God and you cannot find a reason to get out of bed the next day or a reason to be grateful. You just can't see it. There is nothing wrong with that. I'm just going to invite you, I'm inviting you into a conversation so I can just help you, boop, see it. That's all. So that's all I've got. The next broadcast is going to be over the Father. Now I know you're saying, "Oh, the Father is God. What else do I have? What can I learn from that? I'm not God. I can't be like God." Oh my gosh, we're going to be talking about the Father in the parable, and it's going to blow your socks off. So I hope you tune in for this next edition into temper tantrums and transformation. And while the Father does not have a tantrum, remember, we are talking also about transformation and how you can be transformed into the Father. I cannot wait. So I will talk to you and see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.